Hello, my name is Matthew. Today we're going to cover some of the basics of programming in R. You're going to learn how to create variables, assign values, plot data, and title your graphs, and a few little extras. Alright, so in R, we're using RStudio here, but you could use any other version. You create a variable by giving it a name. Suppose you just name it variable. Now there are two ways of doing an assignment in R. You can either use the arrow and say we're going to make it 50, or you can use the equal sign. Both of these will assign the value 50 to the variable. I'm going to be using this arrow method. You can use whichever you'd like. Now, when you want to execute a command in R, so something that you just typed in, you make sure that your cursor is on the right line, or you select the line, you press Control Enter. Now you'll see down here the console shows the last line that we ran, variable assigned the value of 50. And in RStudio, you can actually have a look at your environment and all of the variables that you have assigned. So we have the variable with value 50. Alright, now we're going to make two variables, x and y, but they're going to be a little bit different. They're going to be vectors. So to do that, use the C command, which stands for concatenate. We're going to be concatenating a bunch of numbers together into vectors. Now you can use commas to separate the values. So we're going to have x range from 1 to 6. Control Enter assigns those values to x. So you can see over here, x has the values 1 through 6. Now we're going to do the same for y, but we're going to put in some random numbers. We're going to make sure that these are the same length, though. The reason for that is that we're going to be plotting these against each other, so we need to have corresponding y values for every x value. Right? Control Enter, and we get the value. We get assigned to the variable y the values 3, 5, 2, 8, 2, 3. Now, if you want to plot your data, you do it very simply by just typing in plot. Now, you put in the x values first, and then the y values. You can switch these around. All that'll do is change what's on the x-axis and the y-axis of your graph. So it doesn't make much of a difference. So here we go, Control Enter to plot. And here you can see we have our x-axis and our y-axis. And we have the values x equals 1, y equals 3, which is right there. Then x equals 2, y equals 5, which is right there, and so on. So you can see it's really easy to plot values. Now, let's suppose that we want to give a name to our graph. You do that by adding in main equals and typing a title for the graph. So graph title here. And Control Enter to rerun the command, and you see that the graph title shows up right here. You can also label your x and y axis really easily. Do xlab equals, this is the x-axis, and we'll also add the y label. This is the y-axis. Control Enter. And you can see that the axis labels have changed. This is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. Alright. Now suppose that you don't like that these points are very near to the bottom here. It makes it kind of hard to see. There's not much of a border here. You can change the limits for your x and y. We're going to just change the limit on the y-axis. So to do that, you go ylim equals, and concatenate because we're going to have a lower bound and an upper bound. We're going to have our lower bound 0 and our upper bound 10. Now we'll go Control Enter. You see that updates, so we're now going from 0 to 10 instead of from 2 to 8. So we have a little bit of a margin, so we can see our data points a little easier. Now, it's all well and good to make a graph, but sometimes you want to join the dots. So how would you do that? You can use the lines command. Now, the lines command will add the lines to the last plot that you made. So you'll want to run this immediately after running your plot command. Now, if we want to just join the dots, we can actually just do lines XY. And you see there, it's joined up all of our XY coordinates. Now, having a black line is fairly boring, so you can also color them. We're going to make this red. Now we have a red line connecting our dots. Alright, I think that's enough for one introductory video. I hope you found this useful. I'll see you guys later. Putting them to face just means that I can heal. He's not going to be doing much. Okay, well, I'm perfectly fine with drawing cards, so... go, and we may as well neuter his Maligans. He's got no spells left that can hit you in the face, and whenever he's attacked, it's going to